Hello and welcome back to Why We Write Fantasy. My name is Oscar Cesena,
And I'm KJ Aiello.
and today we're going to be talking about writing groups, mostly our experience.
Our experience,
Yeah,
yes.
but
I
also
like
like
that.
some suggestions and some tips, and we encourage everybody to comment, ask questions because this is something that
Yes.
a lot of even though I don't have that many people in my circle that write, the ones that they ask me about my writing group and all that. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure you
Writing
do.
groups is, yeah, one of the biggest questions I get asked all the time. First of all, like, how do you find a writing group? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
obviously, I've tapped out of this episode already. Anyways, let's continue.
Let's begin with the usual. What are you
Yeah.
reading?
Yes, I'm going to be totally subversive and I'm going to say, what am I playing right now, Oscar? So, a couple of weeks ago, I bought myself a Nintendo Switch Lite. I absolutely love it. And I just finished playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. It was based on Oscar's recommendation. I have never played a Zelda game before in my life. I was a Sega family, okay? And it was just phenomenal. I spent so many blissful hours not thinking about anything, but in the back of my mind, all this creativity was brewing. So, this is one of the things, and we will be talking about this later in the season, is finding creativity in the most unorthodox of places. And for me, one of them is playing open world RPG video games with glorious graphics. I loved it. That's what I'm playing. So, I also bought Tears of the Kingdom last night too, because why not?
Oh,
When you commit, right?
exactly.
Exactly. What
Yeah,
about you, Oscar? Tell
that's
me.
pretty. Just before I go into my what I'm reading, as KJ said, we're gonna do like because I'm
Yes.
playing Tears of the Kingdom. I played Breath of the
Mhm.
Wild came out because I'm actually a Zelda fan. But I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom right now, and KJ is gonna start playing it. So we're gonna be like
Yes.
playing video game buddies or something like that. I don't know how it's called.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
in the near future, we're gonna talk about it and all those things. So I'm pretty excited about
Yes.
that.
Yes. Me too. Definitely.
Yeah.
So what about you? Tell me, what are you reading, Oscar?
So I haven't started this one, but I got it from the library. Is How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu.
Uh-huh.
It I got this recommendation from not other place than Goodreads. Like this is not something that
Oh.
someone usually I get recommendation from people like friends, but this
Yeah.
one like I finished Station 11 and I finished Sea of Tranquility,
Yeah.
both by Emily
St. John
St.
Mandel.
John Mandel.
Emily
Thank
St.
you.
John Mandel. Yeah.
So, and I love them. I rate them pretty good. So Goodreads said like, hey, if you like the Station 11, you might
Okay.
like this one.
All
So
right.
I read a little bit about what it was about, and it's about an archaeologist who is trying to continue the work of
Mhm.
his daughter who had just died, and she died apparently because of an ancient virus. And then it when he starts doing that in the Arctic Circle, something happens and it just spread through the world. It's called the
Right.
Arctic Plague, which I think is pretty cool.
That sounds
Um,
cool. Yeah.
and I
Scary
think
but cool.
the yeah, and I think the whole story is mostly about how the world changes after that, like what happens and all
Right.
that. So it looks like it's pretty dystopian. So
Mhm.
I'm already biased. Like I haven't read a single line, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna rate it at least 5 stars.
At least, at a bare minimum.
At least no, maybe four or five.
Okay.
It's just
All
like
right.
I love dystopia, so this seems to be like
Perfect.
right up my alley. So we'll
And you got recommendation on Goodreads. I see you got a library copy. Is that Toronto Public Library?
it's a
Or
Toronto Public Library copy. Yeah.
nice, nice. Support your local libraries, folks.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Let's
Okay.
dive in.
So let's dive into the writing groups, and I think this is
Mm,
so this is a really cool topic for me, um,
mhm,
and I guess for you, KG, as well. And I think
mhm.
it's a very interesting thing how kind of our experiences are very different with writing
Yeah.
groups. So, first of all, we're going to talk briefly about our experiences. After that, we're going to try to kind of like give some ideas of people like the benefits of why, if you're an aspiring writer, or even if you're already a published writer,
Mhm.
why is it me good to have a writing group, a good writing group, and also some ideas like bouncing some brainstorming on
Yeah.
how to get a writing group because it's
Yes.
not something that is maybe that straightforward. So
It's not,
it
definitely not that straightforward at
no,
all. Even if you find writer people who you think may be good, writing group for you, they
Yeah,
may not necessarily be your writing group people. So, but we're going to get into that.
exactly. Okay, so before we get into your personal experiences, if you're liking what we're doing here, please make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or
Mhm.
subscribe to the podcast if you prefer the audio version. We'll love to
Yes.
hear your comments. Anything that we can help with,
Yeah.
we'll be happy to do it.
Yeah. Would love to hear your experience as well.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yes.
Talking about experiences, KJ, why don't you begin with, like, you've been writing
Ooh,
professionally for a while,
for a
way
while, a
way
few
longer
years.
than I have. So
Right.
why don't you begin with, like, your professional experience with the with writing groups?
Yeah, I actually so my 3 closest friends are all writers, one of them being you. You and I, Oscar, do not write together, so you are not a writing group buddy. My 2 other friends are both writers as well. One is an indie published author, and the other one will be traditionally published at some point. And yet still we kinda co-write, like, write in parallel sometimes when we just kinda need that accountability, like, get my butt in the chair for 20 minutes, pound out some words. And sometimes we bounce ideas off each other. Meaning that, like, I don't generally though. I don't necessarily have, a regular cadence writing group like you do, Oscar. I never found it beneficial for me, to be
Mm,
honest. I do feel like I'm at a point right now in the project I'm working on where I do need that. So this is where I'm like, I'm kind of struggling at this precipice because the folks who I do have are not really writing group friends, but I also don't have folks who I know, who I, trust their experience, trust their input to be able to help lead me in the right direction. So,
mm.
and it's kind of weird because yes, I will be a traditionally published author next year. And I do have a lot of, I've got a lot of essays published and yada, yada, yada. But I'm very much like a solitary writer. This is what I do. The book that I have coming out, The Monster in the Mirror, 2 people have read it. One being me, and the other my editor. Nobody else has read it. Oscar, I know you've read some bits, but those bits have changed so much that
I can imagine. Yeah.
yeah, I can honestly say that no one has read it, and no one's going to read it until we get some author blurbs, we get some early reviews, that sort of thing. So, yeah, writers groups are weird for me. I think it's also that's a me thing.
Yeah.
I tend to hold my cards a little closer to my chest just simply because I'm always on, hovering at the edge of the overwhelms cliff.
Mm,
And if anybody starts to come at me with some idea, well, have you tried this? Well, have you tried that? Very well meaning, I might just get overwhelmed and then drop the whole thing.
mm.
I know myself.
Okay.
So it's a little difficult, but again, like I said, I think I might need a little help with this current novel I'm working on because I am just pounding my head against a brick wall and nothing is coming out. Nothing. I'm stuck. I'm
Yeah.
stuck and I'm ready to throw myself off that cliff.
But
So I might
I
have shot
think,
myself in the foot.
yeah, yeah. I'm just saying that I think you have an advantage that not a lot of writers have, especially when they're aspiring writers like myself.
Yeah.
You have access to an editor, like you
I
already
do.
have, so you can actually get
Yes.
professional advice, not for free, but because it's part of the contract, but it's part of the agreement,
Mm.
I would say.
Sort of. Okay, so I'm going to backtrack you on that. My editor is actually, her name is Jen Suk Feng Lee. She is an editor with ECW Press. That is my publisher. So the only thing that she's doing is editing The Monster in the Mirror. Anything else that I have, I'm on my own for. I cannot
Mm,
go to Jen for that stuff unless I actually wanted
true,
to hire
that
as a
makes sense.
freelance
Yeah.
editor, which I actually don't think she does freelance. But hi, Jen, if you want to be a freelance editor as well, I have like 5 manuscripts for your that need your help. So just in case you're listening, I'm going to
Because
send you an email.
it's easy. It's easier to hope that she's listening instead of calling her.
Yeah, instead of sending her an email. I'm too scared. Um, but I mean, like, but that's not necessarily, an editor isn't necessarily a replacement for a writing group
Yeah.
because you have to get to the point where your manuscript is put together, polished enough that you can hire a developmental editor to be able to help you with that. And
Mm,
editing is another episode in itself because it can be quite complex.
yeah.
Let's be real. writing writing is hard. That's one thing, but being a writer, being in this industry is so brutally hard. So having that support network of people you can who do fully understand what it is you're going through is so important because it can feel very isolating,
Hmm.
you know? So
Well, writing is
that's
very personal in by
it's
itself, so
extremely
yeah,
personal.
so I get that.
Yes.
And I think, just to jump into what you were saying right now, and I think it's a perfect way to phrase it. Having a writing group doesn't mean that you have a only. It's not like one type of writing group. Like it's
Yes.
someone you need to meet in person every week and write together. That's one type.
Yeah.
Like what you have right now, like you said, you have two people who you write like hold accountable on a few things.
Yeah.
That counts as a writing group. It's just a
True.
different writing group that
True.
works for you,
True.
right?
True.
So it's
Yeah.
just for the for people who are listening, it's important to learn those things.
It's
And
what works for you. Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
works for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is also another area where, and we're going to have an episode on this exclusively, is about writing coaches. I hired a writing coach for The Monster in the Mirror. I received grant funding from the Ontario Arts Council and the Canadian Council for the Arts. And part of that went towards hiring a professional who could help me get to the finish line.
Hmm.
And that was, for me, more beneficial than a writing group, you know, sitting down a regular cadence, you know, critiquing each other's work, because it was entirely about me. And
Yeah.
yes, that sounds very narcissistic, but hear me out on this. I did not have to expend any brain energy on anyone else's work because I was so heavily into writing this book. I had so many mental balls juggling in the air at that point that I needed someone to unload all these ideas to, but to help me actually take all the bits and pieces and put them together into some semblance of a book.
Hmm.
And what she did, just like I would not actually have this book if it wasn't for her. So part of your writing community can also include writing coaches.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later in the season.
Yeah,
In the
this is
season.
different. Right now, we're
It's a
focusing
huge
on
thing.
writing
Yeah.
groups, and I think a writing group might be easier for most people to get.
Yes.
A coach
Yeah.
costs money,
It
and
definitely.
if you don't have a grant, as you did, like
Yeah.
it has to come out of pocket. So
Yeah.
um, unless you are actually in a pretty stable financial situation where you can
Yeah.
have some budget allocated for your writing and everything,
Yeah.
a writing group might be cheaper and
Definitely.
like
Yeah.
like an easier alternative for most people.
Yeah. So why don't you tell me about your writing group? Because I'm really envious about what you have, Oscar. Tell me.
Yeah, I can tell you. So my writing group, we've been meeting every couple of weeks for 3.5 years.
That's bananas.
So this is, yeah, it's totally crazy. I think about the kind of like how we started. So before that, I tried a couple of writing groups.
Hmm.
I took a couple of courses about
Hmm.
creative writing and all that, and I met with this writing groups, and something, either one with one of them, something really didn't click
Hmm.
for me, and for the other one that I actually really liked, people start dropping until it was just two of us. And it's like, okay, I guess this is
Yeah.
no longer a writing group.
Yeah.
But with this one, we took this workshop together, and even from session one, I think we clicked pretty well. Like the six of
Mhm.
us, we clicked pretty well, even though each one of us is writing something different. Like, for example, writing sci-fi, another
Yeah.
one's writing fantasy, another one is writing romance. Like, there's so many things and different styles of writing. There's one that I think every time I give her feedback, I tell her that, well, first of all, your writing is beautiful, and then I give feedback because her prose is amazing. Um, but again, this is something we've been doing for 3.5 years. It's not a small feat.
Yeah.
It's something that takes time, takes commitment,
Mhm.
and it's good that we actually see the value because we keep coming.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like sometimes there's one that cannot make it, but it's one time. It's not that this person cannot make it forever. And we then
Right.
our team, not team, like our group starts getting smaller.
Yeah.
But it's honestly something that I feel really lucky
Mhm.
that we ended up in that writing session together, and we clicked
So
so
writing
well
session
that
as in How did you guys meet?
So sorry, what's the session? It was a workshop. So we all signed for the same workshop, and I didn't know anybody. I don't think anyone knew anyone in
Hmm.
there. And then we just started talking. There was an extra person there on the first session, but I don't think she clicked with us, so she
Mm,
dropped almost
right.
immediately. And it was funny because when we were sharing our things, even our facilitator was saying, I mean, if you don't feel confident to share what you just wrote, don't feel compelled to
Obligated.
do
Yeah.
it. And I don't think there was one session that someone said like, I don't want to share. Like we all wanted to share.
Because you felt comfortable with each other.
We felt totally comfortable. It
Right.
was like, yeah, you know what? Like whatever I write is whoever, like they're gonna listen to it and they're gonna give me good feedback, the good
Right.
critique and all that. So and I think we continued with this.
Yeah.
I mean, as like the more we know each other, I think the more honest and sometimes maybe blunt the feedback has become. But
Okay.
something I really, really appreciate.
Right.
Um, for example, they know my characters so well that it's happened to me twice that I write something and one of them is like, you know what, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Your character wouldn't do that. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you
Yeah.
change the actual personality of your character, this is not what she would do. It's like, okay, you might be right.
Yeah.
And that type of feedback for me has been really valuable. I honestly, I don't think I would be, I don't know if I would be writing if it hasn't been for them. Like
That's
this, knowing
amazing.
that every couple of weeks I need to bring something new, it just
Yeah.
gives me the, I'm committed to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
And this is the value of writing groups is that like not only do they help you, power through or whatever iteration of powering through a project that you need, but they also help to keep you in line with your voice and they know your characters. They get to, or whatever it is that you're writing, they get to know that subject matter because it matters to you.
yeah.
So, Oscar, with your group, like I'm assuming because you meet every week, is there some sort of like accountability to produce more work? Do you make a promise the week before, hey, I'm going to come with 2,500 words, or like how does that work? Does it help you get words on paper? This is what everyone wants to know. Does it
Yeah.
help you get words down?
Yes, it does. So usually we come prepared with something to
Yeah.
read.
Okay.
I mean, sometimes life happens, and it's like, you know what, I have a, like I just had like the last 2 weeks for me was like the end of the fiscal, so it was
Yeah.
extremely busy at work. I
Mhm.
barely was able to write, I don't know, maybe 1,000 words stop in the whole week, which is
Yeah.
nothing. um, and but the thing is that because I know that I need to come next week with something to read, I actually forced myself even when I was tired
Nice.
after work. It's like, you know what, instead of going and
Yeah.
sitting on the couch and grab a video game, I'm just going to go and write because I'm committed to my writing group as
Right.
the same way that they are committed to me. So yeah, it's more like a, it's not that nothing is going to happen if I come with
Hmm.
zero things to read, but for me it's also like I'm wasting time, not only my time but their time. Like
Yeah.
we're making 2-3 hours a week to get together, read our stuff, discuss it.
Yeah.
I'm not only wasting time, I'm losing an opportunity to
It's a
have
great
them
opportunity.
read
Yeah.
read what I wrote or what's in my mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens when we don't have something to read is like, hey, I haven't been able to read, but I have these ideas. What do you think? And then we just bounce some
Brilliant.
ideas there.
I love that. And that's another thing too that a writer's group and writers' friends can really help you with is when you're trying to formulate an idea, it's all up here, it's all in your head, but you need to be able to get it out and
Yeah.
just be able to hear the words echoed back at you so you can start to put them together into some semblance of a concept,
Hmm.
right? This bouncing ideas around is, I think that's the biggest thing that my friends and I do is like, we have a group chat basically. It's like, hey, can we do some, whatever project it is we're working on, brainstorming? Yep, shoot, here we go. Or can you
Yeah.
help me through this problem, this plot problem, or this character problem? Yep, shoot,
Hmm.
here you go. But I think it definitely has helped. And like, you said before, these are friends who've like we've been friends for years and years now. So they know whether we've, just by proximity and talking to each other every day, they know everything about my books, my novels, my characters, my themes, and my voice, most
Yeah,
particularly is my voice. And I'm wondering too, though, Oscar, because I know you're getting quite close to the end. I think it's your second or third draft
second.
of your second draft, but you're starting to think beta readers. And this is another thing that could possibly come out of writers group or
Yeah,
writers friends. So is this something that you might end up doing?
yeah, for sure. Like I think that's kind of like an, I say, like unspoken agreement that we all have. Like when the better reader time comes,
Yeah,
I know I can count on them, and they know. Hopefully, they know they can count on me. So it's
yeah,
something that we. I mean, I think it's pretty cool because we've seen the evolution of our stories together.
yeah.
They actually know, like, there's a couple of characters that in my story that have changed a lot, or maybe
Mhm.
just popped out of my imagination with them.
Yeah,
So even though I'm writing the story, I know that I wouldn't be able to be where I am without them, a hundred
yeah,
percent.
yeah,
And I'm not saying without our writing group. I would say without. I'm saying without my writing group, because I
yeah,
said I had two others before and didn't work. And but this one, if it hadn't been for them, my story would maybe different. Maybe would be completely forgotten, and I would be doing something else.
right.
But it's kind of like it's a really good way to know that someone is pushing you to do what you want to do.
Yeah. I'm wondering if we can give like a few identifiers of what, how you know a writing group isn't working for you. Because I think a lot of, particularly newer writers, they'll be doubting themselves and saying, well, maybe it's just me. Because let's
Yeah,
be real, we often think that we're the ones doing something wrong when it comes to writing.
yeah.
So, what have been some sort of key indicators for you, knowing that, that particular group of writers or that individual may not be your cup of tea for writer group?
Mm, I think the first thing for me is, and I do the same thing at work.
Hmm.
Like for me, is it's all about trust
Yeah.
and knowing the people you're working with, either at your job, writing group, even your closest friends. You need to trust them. So
Yeah.
I need to trust them, and I need to trust that their advice and the way they're delivering their advice is something that works for me,
In your
uh,
best
in
interest.
my best interest. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it's important to understand that doesn't have to be the same type of writing. It doesn't even have to be
Yep.
the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
Genre. Yeah.
genre. Yeah,
Your genres are all different.
exactly. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be the same type of prose that you use. Nothing. It's just as long as you trust the people who are giving you advice, and you
Mm.
can rely on them to give you advice when they think it's needed.
Yeah.
um, it's important.
Yeah.
And also the way that you get advice is also important, because each one of
Right.
us likes to receive feedback in a different way.
Yes. Yeah.
I like blunt and straight to the point. Like
Yeah.
if I'm doing something wrong, tell me, because
Yeah.
I don't want to waste time working on something that is not working for me. Like
Yeah.
if you think that what I just wrote is crap, I want to hear
Hmm.
that.
Well, we're
So
not going to say it's crap, Oscar.
that's the thing. Like I that's kind of one of the things that didn't work with my first writing group. Um, Everybody was really
But use the word crap.
polite. No, no, not crap. But what I'm saying is, like, everybody, for example, in this
Just
writing
so,
group that
so
didn't
polite.
work, like,
Yeah.
everyone's extremely polite.
Yeah.
So I came up with something, and honestly, this was maybe 5 years ago. So it was my first writing group. I was just taking my first, no, maybe four
Yeah.
years ago. I had just taken my first creative writing class in English,
Hmm.
and
It was
and
very polite.
everybody was extremely polite. Like there was no criticism, and I mean, I read what I wrote 4 years ago. I've improved a lot,
Yeah.
and it wasn't good. And so every time we met, there was a session, and I came out with the feeling that either I'm writing the next bestseller in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
market, or they don't really care about my
Mm.
writing, so they don't
Hmm.
give me feedback. And I
Right.
now I know that it's not they didn't care. It's just that they didn't want to be aggressive or anything, and that didn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So let's like make a clear delineation between criticism and critique though, because I've been in workshops where it's just plain old criticism and saying, I don't like this, fix this, this is what I would do. And that is not feedback that is helpful in any way,
Hmm.
to be honest. But critique can be both, I really like this because of XYZ. So let's see how we can make this happen again.
Yeah,
Also, this does not align with, like when your writers group, you wrote something about your main character and they said, this is not who she is. Like, what are you
exactly.
trying to do here?
Yeah,
So that kind of thing. And that's feedback. A lot of writers, particularly newer writers, they don't know how to give feedback and b receive feedback. And focusing on what's good is an integral part of giving feedback, but also feeling safe enough both for the giver and the receiver of this feedback to be able to give something that's, and I'm not going to say negative, but to say, this isn't working and this is why. Would
right,
you like to brainstorm how it could work?
right.
Right. And I think it sounds to me like that's what you've got with your writing group,
Yeah,
which is amazing. Yeah.
it's there's I'm gonna recommend a business book. So I just read it. It's called Radical Candor.
Okay.
I don't know if you heard about it. I'm pretty
No,
sure
I
you
don't
did,
read
and
business
it's
books.
it's very businessy in a way.
Mhm.
The author is Kim Scott,
Okay.
and what she does is she explains that when you're giving feedback to your team or
Mhm.
other people at work, you need to be thoughtful, but you
Yes.
also need to be honest.
Yes.
So like, it's not, if you're honest and like you being like radical candor is gonna, I'm gonna be so honest,
Mhm.
and you don't care about the other person's feelings, it's not gonna work because you're gonna
Yeah.
hurt the other person's feelings. There's a person's feelings, and she's gonna quit or he's gonna quit,
Yeah.
either writing or your team.
Yeah.
But one of the things she says basically is like, if you manage to provide feedback, honest
Mhm.
feedback, while caring about the person, you will get the best out of it.
Yeah.
So again, it's a business book. I don't think anyone needs to actually read it, but
But that
if
advice is solid.
it's a really really good advice. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed the reading a lot. I read it
Mhm.
actually for work,
Mhm.
but it's one of the things that I found that it not only works at a corporate level, it works
Mhm.
even as a friend level. Like, think about the way
Yeah.
you talk to your partner, especially if you're in a healthy relationship. If you're not, then forget about what I said. But if you're in a healthy
This is
relationship,
the not the podcast for you. I'm just kidding.
yeah,
Edit that out.
if you're in a healthy relationship, you would
Yeah.
be honest. If someone is doing something that doesn't work, you're going to be honest, but you care about them. So
Yes.
it's like, I'm going to go with my wife. It's like, you know what, this thing that you're doing is just not good. Like, let's,
Yeah.
I can help and I can give feedback
Yeah.
because I care. Like, I care with all my heart, but I need to be honest.
Yeah.
And I think if we can master that when we're giving feedback to other people, we don't
Yeah.
really need to love them the way you love your partner. You need just to care about them
Yeah, and
as
their
as a
well-being
person.
and what they're doing going
Yeah,
forward. Absolutely. And
yeah,
this is integral to writing group because let's be real, writing groups, it's not really like that much too many other groups out there because there's so much vulnerability. You're putting out there your work. And I think,
yeah,
I don't know, I think only really artists and creators understand
yeah,
how vulnerable it is, and if somebody comes back and says, this is crap,
yeah,
or I don't know why you're writing this, or yes, everything is perfect.
yeah,
You still feel betrayed on both ends. Like, I know it's not perfect. Why are you trying to pull the wool over my eyes?
yeah,
I need your help,
yeah.
you
And it's
know?
funny that you say that because I mean, I work a corporate job. So if I make a presentation that is not good and I
Yeah.
get feedback from my boss saying, like, you know what, you missed this marks here, here, and here,
Yes.
I'm not going to take it personal. I'm going to be like, cool,
Yeah.
I'm going to improve in the next presentation. So this is
Yes.
my work. But if
Yes.
I'm putting my heart out writing because it's so
Mhm.
personal,
Yeah.
if someone tells me, okay, these are the 5 things you did wrong, it's like, okay, I'm sure there's more, and you're only focusing on five, something like that. It just gets in our
Yeah.
heads.
Yeah, yeah, it is a difficult space to be in. This is
Yeah.
again like why you need to trust them, and I'm glad you brought that
Yes.
up. Like trust is
Trust is
it
the
is
most important thing.
number one. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um And again, you can get your beta readers out of them
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
I mean, they already know basically what you're writing. They know your characters probably
yeah.
maybe better than you do at that point.
Well,
Once a
I
week for 3.5 years,
you
let's
know
be
what?
real.
It's every, to be honest, it's every 2 weeks, but they do know my characters better because I've written stuff that doesn't align with my characters, and I
Right.
need
So they
someone to
know.
tell me that. So they do know my characters better.
They're the
Uh,
perfect mirror.
exactly. Yeah. I think to close the episode, I think it would be good important just to maybe give some ideas on. Uh, First of all, I think we talked a lot about the benefits of getting
Hmm.
a good writing group. I think in general, there's a few things that I want to mention on top of the things we already talked about. But
Right.
I want to ask you, KJ, is there any particular thing that you think it's a amazing benefit that we haven't talked about today?
Of writing groups,
Yeah.
I think it's for me, I think
Hmm.
it's just not feeling alone because sometimes I'm pretty sure when we come back here in a few years and I am a New York Times bestselling author, I'm manifesting right now. I'm still going to feel imposter syndrome. I am constantly putting myself down. I am always believing that at some point people are going to see the real me and that I'm a fraud. How I'm a fraud, I have no idea, but my brain tells me
Yeah.
these horrible lies about myself. My writing friends are always there to bring me back to reality. They
Yeah.
remind me of my accomplishments. They remind me that, yeah, it's okay for you to feel this way because let's be real, it is it's a tough industry. And so many people can be very critical of you. And it is scary to put that out there and to put yourself out there. But what you're doing is integral to who you are. And that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
don't feel alone. I think that's the biggest benefit for me. What
Yeah.
about you, Oscar?
No, I think my biggest benefits is the first of all building confidence in those things,
Yeah.
having someone to make you be accountable to the things that you
Yeah.
need to write. Friendships for me is, I think that's the most important for me. I thought about one that I don't think it's happening yet in my writing group, but at some point, like we've been writing for 3.5 years together. At some point, someone's going to get published, and it also
Yeah.
helps having friends as you have this
Yes.
network, you have
Mhm.
connections, those things that at some point they know your work. So
Mhm.
if they ask you like, hey, do you know someone, I'm looking for, I don't know, like a sci-fi
Yeah.
dystopian dark story, that do you know someone, and we're like, oh yeah, Oscar is doing that, let me
Yeah.
introduce you to that.
Yeah.
So I think that's an extra thing that you will get, like it's kind of the consequences of having like a really amazing writing group.
Yes. 100%. And let me tell you, so my book's coming out next year. My writing group, my writing friends are going to be there at the book launch, at all the book signings that are here in Toronto, because I do not expect them to go elsewhere. And this includes you too, Oscar. And they are going to be my biggest fans. They
Yeah.
are there with the pom poms on, and you know how much they believe in you because they've been with you from
Yeah.
right from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about the writing community.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
Perfect. I think this was great. And again, like as we were talking, each one of us got the writing groups differently. I got it
yeah.
from a workshop. Um, there's many ways to get it. Like you can
Mhm.
find there's online writing platforms where you can find
Yeah.
someone.
There are
Uh, e-
Facebook groups
Even
and
like
yeah.
NaNoWriMo sometimes provides those
Yes.
things. So
NaNoWriMo.
all those things, just try to find the one that works for you. And again,
Yes.
like each one of us is different. It's like to into the risk of oversimplifying this. It's like when you get a new job, um, even if it's the perfect job in paper for you, if you
Mhm.
don't like the people you're working with, it's just you're not going to
Yeah.
last in that company. So it's the
Yeah.
same thing with a writing group. You need to feel comfortable with the people you're
Yeah.
around.
Yeah.
You're going to be sharing very personal things.
Oh, yeah.
So
Very, yeah. Well, I'd love to hear from you, particularly with this one. I would love to hear what other people's experiences are with writing groups and writing communities, how you found yours. Are you still looking for them? I don't know. Maybe we're going to be the writing community matchmakers, Oscar. Like, let's see.
that was so fun.
That
Yeah.
would be amazing. I want this to happen. Please make it happen. But yes, thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much for listening today. I think it was a really, really personal episode for both KJ and me
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
something we've been doing
Okay.
together but separately. We have our own
Yeah.
writing groups on the side. But again, if you like what we're doing here, as you said, like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, if you prefer the audio version, go and subscribe to your favorite podcast app and follow us
Download the
there.
episodes. Yep.
Yes.
We'll
And the
see you
last
then.
thing, follow us on Instagram at Why We Write Fantasy and use the hashtag WWF or
WWF
WWWF.
or Why We Write
Why we write,
Fantasy.
I think Why We Write Fantasy might be better because
I realized that
WWWF.
the other day. It was
I
World
yeah,
Wrestling, Worldwide Wrestling
exactly.
Tour.
But it was like
Yeah,
the old wrestling thing when I
that was
was
the
young.
old. Yeah, do people still use that? I don't know.
I have no idea, but yeah,
We do.
yeah, we call Hogan and those.
Yeah.
This, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. This was a great episode. See you next time.